Good morning, and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, fightbackmedia.com, fightbackmedia.com. Really appreciate you being here this glorious day. It's a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday morning here in West Central Florida. Looking out the window, I've got we built this, this palatial studio here at the Space Bar Production compound, and now we get to look back out the window into the back 40, and it's gorgeous, lovely day. Sun's coming up, birds singing. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful environment. I appreciate you being here today. Today is a very special day as far as I'm concerned. The long-awaited interview with Carol SWAIN about her new book and what critical race theory is all about is going to play here in just a few minutes, and you don't want to miss that. And I don't know, what does Jack Harris say? You don't want to fail to not miss that. I'm not sure how that goes, but I'm really excited that we get a chance to talk with Professor SWAIN, and it is a fantastic. It is the best 15 minutes that you're going to spend today, no doubt. And then we're going to talk about the insanity that is our nation right now. Of course, Governor Cuomo is going to resign, well, in 14 days when he damn well feels like it. I'm not sure what the over or under is, but he actually leaves in 14 days. But now it will be 13 days. We also have to deal with, of course, Dr. Fauci saying, your personal freedoms, I know people like those, but you might have to give those up because we are in a special moment. And what Fauci is failing to admit is that we keep our personal freedoms, whether it's in a pandemic, whether it's at wartime, no matter what. COVID doesn't matter. COVID does not trump our personal freedoms. It doesn't. And I know that seems crazy to them, but that's how we got. That's how we became the nation that we are. That's why everybody in the world wants to come here. You hate us because you want to be us. And let's see here. Oh, and the Supreme Court of Texas says, y'all can arrest those Democrats if they don't come back. Yeah, you can put them. Yeah, you can arrest them and detain them and make them do their jobs. Yes, you can. Which has gotten to send shivers up the spines of a lot of these finalists that left Texas to go to D.C. because simply to deny the Texas legislature a quorum so they could vote on protecting voter rights in Texas. Yes, so no, y'all can't do that. Yes, and the governor can have you arrested and detained. Texas Supreme Court says so. There you go. All right, so we're going to take a little break and get started with the program. This interview with Professor Carol SWAIN and on CRT. So you want to download this. You want to make sure that you can download this. You want to make sure that you can share this right now with your friends as we do this live. The interview is not live. We did the interview yesterday, but we're recording this program live today. So you really, and if you get in the middle of it and you'll go, dang, I really wish I could have. That's okay. You can go to fightbackmediatv.com, fightbackmediatv.com. And our video interview is up on fightbackmediatv.com, so you have another shot at it. All right, we'll be back with more of the program right after these messages. Bloomingdale's Flower Shop is the premier florist in Tampa, offering flower delivery from Brandon to Lutz. Originally opened in 1986, Bloomingdale's Flower Shop has grown to be the florist in Tampa that customers trust most. Our family-owned local flower shop produces flower arrangements with superior design. And we're best known for our same-day flower delivery as well as the selection of special bouquets we've been crafting with love for 30 years. Our main flower shop is in Tampa, located at 11618 North Florida Avenue. Our secondary flower shop is in Newport Richey at 6835 State Road 54. If you want flower delivery in Tampa, give us a call at 813-933-1942 or 800 888-330-3297. Whether you're seeking your next adventure or simply want to reinvent the weekend getaway, Icon makes flying more exciting and more accessible than ever before. Prepare to redefine everything you thought you knew about aviation. Whether flying is something you already do or something you've always dreamt of doing but thought was out of reach, Icon's flight training courses are intended to show you how to get the most from the A5 in this unique operating environment. If you are interested in more information, please send me an email at iconA5info@gmail.com. That's iconA5info@gmail.com. SwansonReport.net, TheSwansonReport.net, TheSwansonReport.net. A website that is dipped in truth and rolled in cogent conservative thought. Ready to challenge the mainstream media narrative with ease and aplomb. TheSwansonReport.net, TheSwansonReport.net.
A conservative who seeks truth over the conventional statist wisdom, coming to you from the southern headquarters of FightbackMedia.com, your host, Willie Lawson.
All right, well, we're back. Again, thank you. Hope you had time to prepare. This is our interview with Carol SWAIN. Carol SWAIN has a very, very interesting past. She was one of 12 children, grew up in just destitute poverty, and was able to. She was a high school dropout, but was able to get back into school, get her GED, go to community college, and now has earned 5 college degrees, and was a professor at Vanderbilt, I think, in Tennessee. So, an incredible success story. And she's an amazing woman with an amazing testimony and with amazing insight. So let's get started. Here's our interview, our conversation with Professor Carol SWAIN. We know that you have a new book out, and this book deals a lot, or primarily, with critical race theory. What is your, there's a lot of talk about where this came from. Where did this critical race theory thing come from? It seems to be new on the horizon.
Well, it's been around for a long time. It emerged in law schools in the 1970s. And then over the years, it sort of integrated itself into every department in the various universities and colleges. And so it became a part of teacher education, but it started at the universities, but it has roots in Marxism as well as postmodernism. And the postmodernists argue that there's no objective reality and everything is relative. That's a part of what they argue. With the critical race theorists and the Marxist roots, it's all about conflict theory, dividing people. And critical race theory itself divides Americans between whites and blacks. Whites are the oppressors. Blacks and other minorities are victims. And so it's not an ideology that could ever bring about racial reconciliation.
It's designed for division, and those people who create the division will be able to benefit from the chaos. Is that true?
Yes. And the book that I published about a week or so ago, the title of it is Black Eye for America, How Critical Race Theory is Burning Down the House. And I wrote that book because there were so many parents, teachers, policymakers, administrators that were being confronted with this, especially in the K-12 educational realm for the first time. And they were grappling with, how can I understand this concept? Because it's philosophy, it's a theory, it's unproven, but it had morphed into the educational realm. sometimes, it calls itself critical race theory. Sometimes it calls itself cultural sensitivity, educational equity. Sometimes it's DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But when the critical race theorists get a hold of concepts, they don't mean the same things that they once meant. And so there are many people that believe that when you say equity, they're thinking equal opportunity. Yes, I'm in favor of equal opportunity, where equity is about equal outcomes.
Yes, yes. And that's a really big, I think that's a really big thing that we have to make sure that people understand, that these words don't mean the same, and they don't mean what they think they mean. Where do you think the biggest harm comes from the implementation of critical race theory, especially in and through the K-12 system? Because you're right, a lot of districts are grappling with this concept, this problem. Because on the exterior, it seems like, well, that seemed like a nice thing. Teachers are saying, like the head of ATFs are saying, we're just trying to teach a more truthful, honest history, when it's not that at all. So what's the biggest harm?
Well, it's to our children, and it doesn't matter whether they are Black or white, they're being harmed in different ways. For Black children, they're being taught that they are victims. And critical race theory argues that racism is permanent. And if it's permanent, there's nothing you can do about it. You might as well pack up your bags and go home. It's always going to be there. And they are also being confronted with the belief that the only way you get equity is by lowering the standards, because Black people can't compete. And so all the accomplishments, of generations of Blacks, who fought for equal opportunity, they wanted to just get into the system to prove what they could do. All of a sudden, they're telling our children, and many of our children were raised in affluence compared to what we were raised in, that somehow they're inferior. And so instead of tackling the issues, especially the ones in the inner city that make it difficult for kids to learn, and a lot of that has to do with their environment, the family structure and the violence they may live near, they're focusing on a system saying, you're poor, you live in the ghetto because of this systemic racism, and the world is stacked against you. And I think about my own success as having been a high school dropout, one of 12 kids. I got a GED, went to a community college, and then went on to earn a total of 5 college and university degrees. I believed that I could. I believed in the American dream. I believed that if I worked hard, it would make a difference. I never thought that I was handicapped because I was Black, I'm female, I come from poverty. I never thought of myself as a handicapped person, but they're handicapping Black children. They're telling them, that math is racist. That's why you can't, why you struggle. And like a lot of people struggle with math of all different races, we have to, just work harder. And the secret about math is that you have to do the problems. You have to do them over and over and over again until you really understand them. But that's hard work. So instead of focusing on, hard work and the fact that if you skip school and you miss all some of the concepts in arithmetic that bridge between arithmetic and algebra, you're never going to understand algebra because you missed something in between. They're just saying math is racist and that teachers shouldn't expect right and wrong answers. That means that for minority children that internalize that, they're not going to grow up to be even a pharmacist or an architect or an engineer or a scientist or a doctor or anything that requires math. And they're being told that math is racist. For white kids, they're being bullied and shamed because of the color of their skin. They're being told that they have undeserved privilege because they were born with white skin. And they're saying this to all white people, even that poor white male in Appalachia, parents never finished the 2nd grade. They're living in a shack somewhere in a hollow. They're telling that kid that they're somehow advantaged because they have white skin and that they are superior. It really is a white supremacist argument. They're telling every white that they're superior to every minority. So it's a dangerous, racist ideology that has no place in America.
What does, and I know we have to get going. What can the rest of us out here who commentate, who do analysis, who talk to people, what is our solution? What is our way forward to pushing this back on exposing all of this?
Well, I can tell you that my new book is short.
You got a copy of it. I know you do.
I do.
That's it back there.
It is back here. This is the front cover. This is how thick it is. And I can tell you exactly what's in it because I think that, and I will mail you a copy if you send me your address.
Thank you, ma'am.
But the chapters, it was written to be understood. It talks about what critical race theory is, where it came from. And we know that it came from Marxism and postmodernism and critical legal studies. And then we talk about how it runs counter to traditional American values about how you treat individuals, how you treat people. It runs counter to Christianity, as well as civil rights laws, the Equal Protection Clause. And we have strategies for fighting back. And so let me give you some of the strategies. And I should also tell you that it has a glossary. There's so many terms that are thrown at people to confuse people. And we define those terms in this book so that people can go and look it up for themselves. Now, the terms keep changing all the time, but right now we have the latest buzzwords, what they really mean. But the first thing that people need to know is that they have to understand what CRT is, critical race theory, we call it CRT, and where it came from. We have to challenge the legality and constitutionality of it in the workplace and in schools, because if they're resegregating college campuses and they're encouraging all the Black students to, be in separate dorms or to take separate sections of a course, or they put pressure on them to go to a separate graduation, that's segregation, and that's against civil rights laws. And it's also discriminating against whites because they set up things that they encourage minorities to participate in, no whites allowed. That's counter to why we fought the civil rights movement. You can organize grassroots movements to elect school board members, city council members, mayors, state legislators, and that will oppose the CRT agenda, which includes that 1619 curriculum that the New York Times put out that has a false view of history. And Willie, our point is in this book, there's nothing wrong with studying history and the civil rights movement and slavery and all of those things. But if you do it in a way that is one-sided, that is geared just to demonize one race, and you don't talk about what whites and Blacks and Hispanics and Asians were able to do working together, well, that's part of a political agenda to divide. It's not the true history of the civil rights movement. The true history of civil rights and the outcome of slavery is positive, and what Blacks were able to do in the aftermath of slavery, that's positive. And we do know that about Black Wall Street, it got lots of attention. The focus was on the white people being racist. They burned the city down, or the Black neighborhood down. But the true focus was it was less than 60 years after slavery, and Black people were so prosperous. They were more prosperous than the white people. And so the ones that burned it down were jealous. So what about these Blacks? They didn't get government loans. Government loans didn't set up Black Wall Street. And so there's nothing wrong with history. People need to use multiple strategies, town hall meetings, writing public officials, social media, organizing rallies, and they need to educate their church leaders, because critical race theory and Marxism is in the church under the guise of social justice. And a lot of church leaders don't understand that it runs contrary to biblical values and principles, Christianity, that they're supposed to be teaching and upholding. We need to push back against big tech companies that are ruining our lives. And we need to monitor our state and local governments to make sure that they're not pushing it. And then the last is we need to develop alternatives to diversity, equity, and inclusion training. And I have done just that. I started a new company last year called Unity Training Solutions. And my website is unitytrainingsolutions.com. and we offer our own education that embraces diversity, but in a way that is consistent with our national motto of E pluribus unum, out of one many. And so we focus on team building. We don't demonize people because they happen to be white or they happen to be male, because with critical race theory, we're focusing on critical race theory. It is one of several critical theories. There's critical queer theory, critical feminist theory, critical colonialism theory, and with critical feminist theory, it demonizes men. And so we're focusing on one theory that's permeated our institutions, but at the same time that we're focused on critical race theory as being the most important, critical queer theory, they have their agenda. They are indoctrinating our kids as well as our institutions, and they're pushing their ideology that diminishes heterosexuals and people that choose traditional lifestyles. So there you have it.
There's a lot to unpack. And I want to make sure I got that website correct. It's unitytrainingsolutions.com.
Yes.
Because we are going to share that in this interview, and we're going to share that website continuously until things get better. It's one of those things. You know the acronym PUSH, pray until something happens.
Right.
This is part of our push. We're going to continue to push until something happens. I know you got to get out of here. I know you're very busy.
But I have to say one other thing.
Oh, certainly.
Is that I believe that racial and ethnic minorities have to stand up at this moment, that this is a civil rights issue, and the things that are taking place affect every American, and that a lot of white people have lost their voice. You hear from the white progressives, they know everything. But regular people have lost their voices, and the discrimination against them, it's not, if it was wrong to do to us, it's also wrong to do to them and their children. And we have civil rights laws, we have a constitution with the equal protection clause, we have an American way of life, and we need to stand together to fight against something that's trying to destroy all of us and our way of life.
Amen. We appreciate it. Bloomingdale's Flower Shop is the premier florist in Tampa, offering flower delivery from Brandon to Lutz. Originally opened in 1986, Bloomingdale's Flower Shop has grown to be the florist in Tampa that customers trust most. Our family-owned local flower shop produces flower arrangements with superior design. And we're best known for our same-day flower delivery, as well as the selection of special bouquets we've been crafting with love for 30 years. Our main flower shop is in Tampa, located at 11618 North Florida Avenue. Our secondary flower shop is in Newport Richey at 6835 State Road 54. If you want flower delivery in Tampa, give us a call at 813-933-1942 or 800-330-3297. Whether you're seeking your next adventure or simply want to reinvent the weekend getaway, Icon makes flying more exciting and more accessible than ever before. Prepare to redefine everything you thought you knew about aviation. Whether flying is something you already do or something you've always dreamt of doing but thought was out of reach, Icon's flight training courses are intended to show you how to get the most from the A5 in this unique operating environment. If you are interested in more information, please send me an email at iconA5info@gmail.com. That's iconA5info@gmail.com. SwansonReport.net, TheSwansonReport.net, TheSwansonReport.net. A website that is dipped in truth and rolled in cogent conservative thought. Ready to challenge the mainstream media narrative with ease and aplomb. TheSwansonReport.net, TheSwansonReport.net.
a conservative who seeks truth over the conventional statist wisdom, coming to you from the southern headquarters of FightbackMedia.com, your host, Willie Lawson.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for that. It was amazing. I told you. It was amazing. And it was amazing sitting here having a conversation with somebody I have so much respect for. And the respect is obviously earned. So if you haven't gotten the book yet, get the book. You can go to carolswain.com and find out more about Professor Swain and order the book. And I think it's available in bookstores and on Amazon. Go ahead and do that. And if you're interested in, and you should be interested in, how do we fight back? How do we, train people to fight back? The name of the website, again, is unitytrainingsolutions.com, unitytrainingsolutions.com. And you can find all the particulars about that and getting them to come to a group near you. If you have a conservative group, if you have a community organization, if you have an HOA, just, whatever you have, excuse me. A little cough, but yeah. unitytrainingsolutions.com, unitytrainingsolutions.com. And you know what? And organize a class, organize something that, and just in getting them to come to you and organizing this class, it's going to encourage you. Because right now, everybody feels like the left is pushing so hard and the wall is so high, and it's like we're getting swallowed up in it. But the fact of the matter is that, we can fight back. We can push back against this leftist Marxist agenda, and this is one of the ways to do so. So don't ignore it. Don't think that you can't do it, that you can't start it, that you can't be a part of it, because you can. And frankly, you should. All right, it is absolutely, positively amazing that the madness continues, and the madness continues. I was going to get to this third, but it was really. Let me get organized here. It really just bothers the crap out of me. Let me say this again. $1.2 trillion. $1.2 trillion. That, it is amazing. Let me find out, and there are 19 people that I want you to know who they are, because it's also important for this alleged infrastructure bill, and when we think of infrastructure, we think about bridges and dams and electric plants and that kind of stuff. But this is not that. This is a leftist wish list. And there were 19 Republican senators said here that Republicans have been the the finger in the dike. But some of them, the people that you would have expected, or the weak link. You remember that show? You are Mitch McConnell. You are the weakest link. Mitt Romney. You are the weakest link. Susan Collins. Not surprised. Lindsey Graham. Roy Blunt. Rob Portman. Bill Cassidy. Chuck Grassley. Shelley Moore, Capito, Deb Fisher, Roger Wicker of Mississippi, Mike Crapo from Idaho, Jim Risch from Idaho, Kevin Kramer from North Dakota, John Hoeven from North Dakota, Lisa Murkowski, of course, from Alaska, Dan Sullivan from Alaska, Richard Burr from North Carolina, and Tom Tillis of North Carolina. Yeah. So here's, God, and it just pisses me off. It just pisses me off. Because there isn't any gamesmanship or upside to this at all. It gives Joe Biden a victory, his largest victory, right before the midterm elections. When the oxygen was getting sucked out of the room, when people were about to get locked down again, and the pushback on masks and mask mandates and vaccine passports and vaccine mandates and all that stuff was really, really starting to work against the Biden administration and the left. These 19 Republicans just snatched, defeat from their jaws and shoved victory down their gullet. Are you serious? What in the hell? I mean, who are these people? I mean, again, I feel like Denny Green. We knew who these people were. We knew who they were, and we let them off the hook. Amazing. But we knew who these Republicans were. Now, the knee-jerk reaction is to paint, for people who are not, Marxist leftists, is to paint all the Republicans as the same. But we're talking about 19 people. We're not necessarily talking about the party. Now, you guys who listen to this program know that I'm not here as a shill for the Republican Party, because that is the that is the message and the mentality and the narrative that a lot of people will have you participate in. Excuse me. Let me drop my delicious coffee here, because it's easy. Because it doesn't require any thought, it doesn't require any nuance, it doesn't require any context. But the fact of the matter is that this is 19 people. These are people that can be primary. These are people who can be run against, and this is not everybody, because there were a lot of people who voted no. A lot of people who voted no. A lot of Republicans voted no. As a matter of fact, there were 30 Republicans who voted no. A full 1/3 more Republicans than voted yay. They voted nay on this freaking nightmare. And it was a lot of the people that you thought it would be. It was the Ted Cruz's. It was the Rand Pauls. It was Marco Rubio and Rick Scott from Florida, right? Florida voted no. And so it is interesting, So what we have to do moving forward, I know that a lot of people, because you buy into this monolithic mentality, this monolithic narrative. Well, the Republicans sold us out. No, these sumbitches here. Let me mention their names again. Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, Mitt Romney from Utah, Susan Collins from Maine, Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, Roy Blunt of Missouri, Rob Portman of Ohio, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Chuck Grassley of Iowa, Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia, Deb Fisher of Nebraska, Roger Wicker of Mississippi, Mike Crapo from Idaho, Jim Rich from Idaho, Kevin Kramer from North Dakota, John Hoeven from North Dakota, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Dan Sullivan, also from Alaska, Richard Burr, and Tom Tillis of North Carolina. That's who we should blame. You know the argument that we don't blame the gun, we blame the criminal. So we don't blame the party, we blame the criminal. So now it's up to North Carolina and Alaska and North Dakota and Idaho and Mississippi and Nebraska and West Virginia and Idaho and Louisiana and Ohio, Missouri, South Carolina, Maine, Utah, and Kentucky for conservatives, for Americans in those states to do the right thing. Now it's time for those states that I mentioned to do the right thing. Fix the problem. A lot of the rest of us had it right. I'm just going to tell you, a lot of the rest of us had it right. Fix the problem. Who gets to do this? It's not surprising, and it is, and I got to admit that I am surprised that this is even happening at all. That Andrew Cuomo has decided yesterday. Actually, I learned about it as we were finishing up the morning report for yesterday. That Andrew Cuomo has decided to resign after 10 and a half years of being governor of the state of California, and most of it due to all these sexual harassment allegations. He's decided to resign. Now, he didn't resign when his policies killed a whole bunch of old people in nursing homes. And there's a video going up on the Fight Back Media TV website and the Fight Back Media website today. So you want to check it out today because it was on YouTube, and I am sure it'll be taken down on YouTube before you can get there. So posting a link to it is useless because it won't be up on YouTube. This poor guy thinks it's going to be up. YouTube's going to get a hold of it here in about 15 minutes, and it'll be taken down. About the number of deaths in nursing homes in Ontario, Canada, and places like New York, and places like Wisconsin, or Michigan, Pennsylvania. And so that video will be up on Fightback Media TV and on fightbackmedia.com shortly after this broadcast here. But it's amazing that he didn't resign. Cuomo doesn't resign because he killed grandma and grandpa and your great aunt and your cousin and your uncle and your mom by sending COVID positive patients back to nursing homes in New York. That's not why he resigns. Because his brother, Chris Cuomo from CNN, covered for him, and CNN as a network covered for him and held him up as a hero, as America's governor. He has to resign because he can't keep his hands off the females. What? He has to resign because he can't keep his hands off the females. And on top of that, he decides that he's not going to resign today. He's going to resign in 13 days. I'll resign in 13 days. I'm out of here in 13 days. Like, he's given the state of New York a 2-week notice. Now, a lot of us who, it was funny, I was talking to my wife about it, and she said, she works in the financial institution industry, and she said, what, if you are working in a financial institution, that industry, if you quit and you give your 2 weeks notice that you're going to quit, you only give your 2 weeks notice as a courtesy, because what you know is that because if you are hanging out there for 14 more days, you can cause irreparable damage to the system and the like. So they usually ask you to go ahead and go home that day, and they'll pay you for the rest. They'll pay you for the next 14 days. But they ask you to go ahead and pack up, and then security escorts you out to make sure that you ain't stealing nothing. And that's what need to happen to Andrew Cuomo. The New York State Police needs to escort him out of the governor's mansion and the governor's office. Make sure he's not stealing anything. Make sure that he's not destroying evidence in these cases. Because someone got to him and said, it's okay to lose the governorship, but you don't want to end up in jail. So if the smell of bleach bit is strong in the offices in the office, yeah, somebody go in there and stop him. His right-hand woman resigned 2 days ago, or Monday, I think, right? So you knew that something was up because she didn't want to be in any part of the cover-up because there was going to be a cover-up. And what we're experiencing now and will be experiencing for the next 13 days, in my not-so-humble opinion, is a cover-up. All right, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. I know Dr. Fauci doesn't think that personal freedoms exist, but how can I say this politely? Screw you, Dr. Fauci. How about that? All right, we got to get out of here and make room for somebody else. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.